Coming to you live from the middle of nowhere, this is the Wingin podcast, a podcast with no specific genre. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you hit the follow button on the Facebook page and search up our other socials. Just search for the Wingin podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Esports Certified. To enjoy 10% off, go to their store and click the link below. Enjoy. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Wingin podcast. Everything is going well with the website. I'm very happy with all the support that I've gotten from you guys. So let's get straight into it. We have a couple of guests again with us today. Welcome guys. Welcome back.
We are back.
Yes.
Welcome back to you.
Yeah, it has been a while. Battling sickness and having to travel a little bit, but we are back nonetheless. So I haven't told these two the topic for today yet. Are you guys ready to hear it?
No. I don't think you can ever be ready for such things.
Okay, so today's topic on the Wingin It podcast is your thoughts on the inflation in our economy and whether it's going to continue and whether we're going to go into a recession, whether there's going to be another global financial crisis, and also whether that will cause a collapse in society because of the economy.
Well, oh god, I don't even know where to start.
I've definitely
Quite a
sprung it
broad
on you.
topic.
So let's.
As for the fall of society, I don't think it
Won't go
probably
that
goes
far.
Well,
It won't go
let's-
that far.
Let's start from the start. So over the last few years, we obviously have seen through COVID and the likes of other things going on in the world, we've seen economies rise and fall. Interest rates are climbing. The price of living is getting higher compared to the average salaries. So obviously caused by COVID, but I don't think that there's ever going to be a recovery. I think that COVID's going to be around forever. And
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, COVID will be just like the flu.
economies, I don't think they'll recover, especially here in Australia where our economy's not quite as strong as, some of the bigger powers.
Eventually.
Economies are not a static thing. They do really well, and then over a period of, say, 50, 60 years, they'll inflate a lot, and then you'll hit a recession, and then if it gets really bad, you'll hit a depression. But not long after those, the economy usually bounces back to an earlier state where it's really strong again. Just take the Great Depression, for instance. America had huge problems with the Great Depression. Like, I know a lot of the world did, but
Yeah.
America got hit really hard by it.
Yeah, well, we managed to
and-
escape a couple recessions that a lot of the world went through.
Yeah. Well,
Like, we escaped one in the early 2000s, and then we barely even felt the global financial crisis. Well, not as much as other countries did anyway. So there's no reason to think we wouldn't escape a third time.
honestly, I think the main problem to global economy is not necessarily the fact of COVID or the recessions. It's the fact that countries like China and Russia are starting to take back the gold standard, or at least I know Russia already has. China's been speculated to that they might, and if people start doing that, then America will no longer be the world currency, in that point of view, and that will hit all Western countries very hard because they'll be the last ones to withdraw from the American dollar.
Well, even look at the way that technology is going with in the likes of electric vehicles and sustainable energy. Like 10, 15 years ago, there was nowhere near the demand for things like lithium and uranium and things like that for the production of like electric vehicles and batteries and things like that. I feel like even that has put bigger demand on countries. Well, even Australia, like we are one of the biggest suppliers of lithium, and things like that can affect things can affect other things down the line, like where gold, like we're obviously one of the highest producers in gold, So previously, where we've been the main supplier of gold, now sort of being switched over to lithium as well, having that other demand, we're having more money come in from other
Well,
countries in exporting. But it's
you make a good point in the fact that we do make a lot of money in just mineral export in general, like
Yeah.
a heap of it, and it's
Yeah.
only going to be more, I suppose, needed across the world as time goes on. Like the world's going to need more and more of everything, and
Yeah.
Australia has a lot of all of those things.
Yeah, we are very lucky, especially in Western Australia. We do have essentially just a plethora of minerals ready to get.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
are the minerals going to run out? Supply and demand, is that going to go through the roof?
Well, they will eventually like run out, but I don't know how far away that is yet.
But
Um,
I'd like to think that at least like, we might get hit with a little recession, but I think we'll be like as a country, I think we'll be better off than a lot of other people.
I think our farming exports will be um what keeps us from being hit as hard as other countries as such, because you could say mining exports, but the problem with that is that not a lot of countries would probably be buying those kind of minerals during a depression or a recession because they will
Everyone
have
needs
other things.
stones.
Or do you think we would stockpile gold and iron and lithium and uranium and
Well,
everything?
every country has stockpiles of these
Well, we have a
things.
tiny ass stockpile though.
Because we export the majority of
Yeah,
it.
well, we
Yeah.
export a lot of it, that's why.
Well, even look at the likes of the Pilbara region up north of WA. 90% of their I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass here, but I'm gonna say 90% of their iron goes directly from the mine site straight to ports and on boats.
See,
Yeah.
because you've said you've pulled it out of your ass, you could have said 1%
No, it's the same thing. It's more the idea that a high percentage of it goes straight to the country.
Yeah.
Same as
A high
grain.
I
percent.
knew what he was getting at,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, a high
Like same
percent.
as grain. Most of the grain we get, we ship off straight away.
Yeah, well, a lot of
It goes straight from the country bunker sites onto a truck straight to the port here in Geelong, and then gets shipped off straight
yeah.
away.
Well, even look at like back in our little town, I say a lot of our grain went straight onto trains and into port. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah,
a
not
good
not
90,
a lot of it.
odd percent of it.
Yeah. Well, because I worked at the port for like a month or so, a couple months, and pretty much nearly all the grain from most country bunker sites goes straight to the port into storage
Mm.
to be sold at the first chance it gets.
Well,
Like
it's
every week we're doing 2-3 of these big ass cargo ships
yeah,
every week, shipped off straight away. 24 hours a day we're filling them up.
and that's the way
Yeah.
that the companies like to be though, because as soon as it's
Mm.
on, well, they're selling it before they're getting the money even before it gets on the train to go to port. Like
Yeah.
it's sold straight off the paddock essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like essentially, India's ordered yay tons of grain and they paid for it and then it gets shipped over instantly.
I guess
Economies are weird because if you look throughout history, there's been many um sorry. There's been like many countries who've been the world leader in economics because you had like countries like the UK when they're like this is like a couple centuries back now. The Dutch had the world economy at one stage, but you see these trends with the world economies how they start really strong, and then when they start to hit recessions and stuff, they start to print lots of money, and this is happening in the US right now. They're printing money because they're not spending enough money or something like that. So they're trying to get more money into the thing because it temporarily lowers the inflation, but in the end, it's going to cause them to actually go down.
it's
And
essentially
it's
going to
happened with
dilute their
nearly
economy.
yeah, that's what it's doing. It's diluting their economy because there's too much money now in their economy, and nearly every country in the history of currency has done the same strategy. And you see it because you always see the most powerful country at that time and they reach this peak and then they'll just start falling down this peak while the next country who's like a emerging superpower, in this case it might be a country like China,
Hmm.
where their currency is going up. And that's just been a regular flow throughout all of time, really.
So do you think that we're one of the countries that are on the rise, or we're slowly coming down, and eventually it'll be our turn to rise to a
See,
bigger.
it's weird because the world economy is so globalized now.
Well, a
And
lot of
by
countries
globalized, I
rely on.
mean it's really based on the American dollar. So it doesn't matter. Well, just look, take Russia for instance. Now, when when every Western country in the world like embargoed them,
Yeah.
their currency took a massive hit. They were like
Well,
they were poor as dog shit. They've then switched back to the gold standard, and
Yeah.
their economy is actually doing really well now.
so I've
So
done a quick Google. This has come from austrade.gov.
Yeah.
Apparently, Australia's growth rate is remaining strong at 4.2%.
yeah,
Like per
According to the
year or.
International Monetary Fund,
Mm.
Australia's GDP is projected to be 6.7% larger by the end of 22 than pre-pandemic 2019.
yeah.
Okay, so we're still growing even
So
though
essentially, our
pandemics.
The
economy is going to
thing
be bigger now than it was even before
thing
COVID.
the thing with a country like Australia though is we have compared to other countries like European countries in America, we have such a small population.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
we grow rapidly, our GDP is going to look like it's really increasing by a lot. Because the more money the people spend, the bigger your GDP growth is going to look like.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about Australia is that we're a growing nation. We still have immigrants coming in all the time, and because we have such a small population, it's going to affect our GDP a lot more than a country like America, where they have 400
Yeah.
plus million people. You know.
Well, that's always been the issue with Australia and their economy is the lack of population compared to other
That
big
has that's a
countries.
lot of issues with Australia. Really, like
Yeah, their
our
population.
the
issues.
size of our country and the
But then
lack of
also
people in it. Really.
on the flip side of that, that is the reason why we're one of the or probably I'd say second global leader in grain exports next to America because they have giant
Well, I
wheat
think
belts and everything.
Nah, Ukraine
previous
was
Ukraine was. I
Yeah, they
think.
Ukraine was
was.
one of the was I think it was almost the biggest in the
It
world. I
was,
think,
I believe.
but I mean
Well, I'll
that's not
say
going to happen anymore.
we're
But
one of the biggest because we have such
well,
land
yeah,
mass to have
mm,
such cereal farming going on. It's sort
mm.
of a give and take. We could have the population to have money flowing through the economy in the likes of cities and things like that, but then you lose
Well,
that benefit.
I don't know about.
So,
So the problem
it,
with more farmland is that I think most of the viable farmlands like occupied already because a lot of the
Oh yeah,
land left now is like your red dust sand
you
and
yeah.
stuff like
you
that where
can
you can't
work it.
really farm on it.
You
Well,
can't.
this
Yeah,
is
I think you
is it
can.
worth it financially though is the
You
question.
could farm on it, but the problem is the amount of work you would need to put into
water.
it first, like
Mm.
irrigation, even
Your
bringing
quality of grain is not
bringing
going
the
to be nearly as
soil
good as someone who's got good soil.
bringing the soil up to par. You would have to spread clay and sand and a lot of
Yeah.
gypsum, things like that, just to get it up to
The
par.
amount of money spent on water alone
Yeah,
Look,
just
would really
just
be
to
not worth
irrigate
it.
the farms.
the safest
Yeah.
market in the world will always be food because
Everyone needs
everybody
to eat.
always needs food.
Yeah,
Even if the world went to shit, people still need to
Yeah.
eat.
yeah. Well, that's
You
true.
don't need a mobile phone.
But
If the whole world said, like, all of a sudden we
mm,
couldn't use technology anymore,
You
and
still need
had to go
yeah.
food.
back to fucking sailboats and stuff, you still got to eat.
Yeah,
You don't need a
still
phone, but
gotta
you
eat.
still got to eat.
The
Yeah.
problem with
Also,
it is that if there's too much farmers, so if you look say back at the Great Depression in America specifically,
there's
the
definitely
farmers
not too
got
much farmers.
the farmers got hit fucking way too hard, and that was I think it was partially because a lot of the veterans who came back from World War I got given farmland or something,
And didn't know how to use it.
and they either didn't know how to use it or sold it straight away. So like
But no,
there's just
there is
farmers were not getting
certainly
paid.
there is certainly not a farmer shortage in Australia.
No.
No.
That's a big thing right now. Like take
Yeah.
nil. When I was a kid, there would have been couple hundred different farmers
Yeah.
owned by different, a couple hundred different farms owned by different farmers. That's probably halved. How many
All
people
the
from our
land's
class?
blown.
How many farm kids from our class are
Mm.
continuing the legacy of
Yeah.
being a farmer? Like what? Two?
Two?
Yeah.
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 I'm not. Tyler's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of my cousins, only out of three of my cousins, only one
But
of them is.
I think
Yeah.
a big problem with that
That's the
is
thing though, with families you generally get like you get this thing with your family or sometimes even your extended family where you get your kids who don't want to do it, but then there's the one kid who'll do it, and he'll
Yeah.
take over like everything. Like he'll
And
take
that's,
over all the
I
property and
think
all the stuff,
that's
and
one of
that's
the big
almost nearly
problems.
better though. No,
That's but
I
no
don't know
no
if it's
no
a problem though.
one of the big problems is money. Like I would love to own my own
Yes.
farm, but the problem is I don't
Yeah.
have $10 million
Farms are
to buy
expensive. Yeah,
land and
Also,
equipment.
they
I
are
did a
very
quick
expensive.
Google before. Australia is the sixth biggest grain exporter.
Yeah.
As of
Yeah.
2020, that was.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was Russia, US, Canada, France, Ukraine, then
Mm.
Australia.
But look at
Yeah.
the land masses though. Russia,
Yeah.
US, like
Huge.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
of those places have a lot more fertile soil than us.
Yeah,
and-
look at our
But still,
farmable land compared to our,
yeah. Six
export.
ain't bad though.
Yeah,
Like
well,
No,
for,
it's
for who
really
we
good.
are, six is pretty darn
Out of
good.
200 and something countries in the world, that's very good.
yeah.
We export 10 million tons
Wow,
Yeah.
in 2020.
that's a lot.
Shit, that's a lot.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, Ukraine had 18, France had 19, Russia had 37 million tons, but what are you gonna do about it? It's
Yeah, but
Russia.
also look at the land they've got though. All of it is
Yeah.
wet all the time.
Yeah.
We're like, with a global rainfall in this, like in the center of Australia, the yearly rainfall in the center of Australia is next to nothing. You can't grow anything
Yes.
there.
Desert levels.
Yeah, if we had the rainfall like Russia and Ukraine and things like that all over Australia, then Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the other thing where we get droughts every now and again.
Oh, here's an interesting little fact. Our imports have gone down heaps.
Yeah, okay. But it's probably
We're
because
importing-
we're
That's-
using a lot
That
more
is
of our
very
own.
good for
In
our.
2019, we imported 301,710,000,
Yeah.
right?
The
Yeah.
problem.
And now in
Yeah.
2020, we only imported 266 million, and that trend is continuing downward.
It's probably because we're
The thing
using
with
our own
imports and
resources.
exports and the globalization of the trade routes is, it back in the imperial days, like Great Britain and Imperial France and all that.
Yeah.
All of those major nations had their borders closed. They were completely self-sufficient.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's true. That is also true.
And it was good up to a point until it became bad. It was not good for them because it was costing them so much money to bring in stuff that they didn't have from their colonies and shit, And so I don't remember which nation did it, but one of the great nations decided, you know what? I think it might have even been France under Napoleon. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Basically said, well, no, we're gonna buy stuff from these other countries because it's much cheaper to do it that way, So they opened up this import buying from other countries, and that's good to an extent, but you can't hurt your own industries
No.
because of it. And the problem with modern day trading is that we sell off our automobile industries to mostly Asia now. Actually, it's mostly Japan, South
Japan does a
Korea,
lot of it. Yeah.
like those two countries specifically to have half the fucking world's market in car building. And then you've got like your electronics, Japan, South Korea again. Um, Anything that's made anywhere is always China. You always get that made in China thing.
Yeah.
Like it's gone too far the other way now. We need to bring back industry, and I think the problem is that these companies are so money hungry. They see cheaper production in places like China,
But also,
and
sometimes
they jump
quality
at it.
isn't exactly up to par as well. Do you sacrifice
Well,
quality over quantity,
the thing is that quality will always be better if it's built in the country where you buy it.
Yes.
If it's
Yeah, I agree with
if we made stuff here in Australia, the quality would be way better than if we bought it from its natural places from China.
Well, so I'm talking
Ha-
about inflation
Yeah.
and stuff. This is coming from the World Bank as a source. Our inflation's gone down nearly a whole percent. Like, so from 2017 to 2020, it's gone down nearly a whole percent. It's only it's tiny. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think. I certainly think that a lot of people did it. They probably over. Are probably being a bit too overzealous on the whole. We're going into a recession thing. Like, sure, could we? Yes, but
It's always a
I
possibility.
wouldn't start counting those chickens until they've hatched.
Yeah.
Like, sure, if
I
you want
mean,
to start preparing for it, go for it. I think
Yeah.
you should always be on the safe side of things. But
I honestly think that a recession would benefit someone like me, because at the bottom of our economy at my age, now is a good time to, during a recession is then a good time to start investing. So when the economy
That's
picks
true.
back up again, then your
Yeah.
wealth grows exponentially.
Yeah.
As of
The thing is, though, is that during a depression or a or something like that, is that a lot of people lose their jobs, so they just don't have the money to do that kind of stuff. That's the downside to it, you know.
but for for me
Yes, it's a
being in the
great
industry,
monetary opportunity to put like $1,000 on a company that's doing really badly at the time, and you know they're gonna do better once the economy bounces back and stuff. But some people just can't financially afford that.
yeah, and that's fair. But it's for as I said, for someone like me, I'm very lucky in the industry that I work in. Obviously, being in mining, I don't think we'll ever lose jobs until we lose the ores and minerals.
Or
Yeah.
like you're safe. But see, and most jobs, I think in Australia specifically, are safe because we're growing. We're growing quick enough that we need more workers, and we
Yeah.
need. There's always a job. Like, I think that's one thing that people
Yeah.
But
fail to realize.
Melbourne's having huge worker issues at the moment.
Well,
Like, there's
look at
just
the
not enough.
unemployment rate. The
There's not
unemployment
enough.
rate is dropping a lot since 5-10
It's
years ago,
tiny apparently here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's hit one of the lowest rates it's ever been,
which is good.
and it is good, but it's really bad for businesses because businesses are short of
Oh
workers.
shit! Okay, unemployment rate at 3.9 is apparently at is that's coming from the Bureau of Statistics.
3.9%.
That's tiny.
Yeah, that's
That's
nothing.
tiny. But no, I think Australia's it's growing at a quick enough rate that we're always needing more work. I think people like everyone that goes, oh my god, I can't find a job, I can't find a job. I think you're wrong. If you're an Australian and you can't find a job, you're doing something wrong. You're not applying to enough of them.
I've
Because you
always
keep
thought
applying, you get a job. You go walk
Yeah.
into a supermarket and say, I need a job, and they'll probably hire you.
I've
You just need
always
to go and
thought that
do it.
people that say they can't find a job are just lying to themselves.
They can't. They're not
Like,
trying hard enough. To
If
find a job.
people I've seen, at the risk of sounding a little bit judgmental here, I've seen some of the people that businesses have hired, and if people
Yeah.
that I know say that they say that they can't find a job, I think that you're just being
And
too.
then you look at the people that have been hired.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
being too picky. You either want a job or you don't. You've got to start
You either-
somewhere.
yeah.
There are so many jobs out there that will take you on a dime.
Yeah, with no, there's
If you really need a job, that you'll get one. If you're looking for a specific job, then it's different.
Yeah,
You know, if you're sitting
but-
there like, I want a medical job, you're gonna have a
I
bit
think
more hard time.
if you're unemployed and it's been for like a length of time, and you're still not getting the job that you want, you need to give up on it, or not give up on it.
you need
you
to
need to apply
start
for other
somewhere.
jobs.
But get a job.
You need
Yeah,
to apply
start
for another
somewhere.
job, get a job,
Yeah.
but you can still apply for your job.
Exactly,
just
you can get a
another one
job.
in the meantime.
And then you can get just a supermarket job for God's sake, and then just
Yeah.
sit there at your supermarket and make you I don't know $400-500 a
Not-
week, whatever else you
Not
get.
saying supermarket's a
then-
bad
and then
job.
that's-
But I think we
No,
all
there's
used to
nothing
do
wrong
it.
with it. I've worked in a supermarket
That was
like,
good
for like
fun.
4 odd years. It's nothing wrong with it.
I used
But
to
like
like
at the
it.
end of the day, it's one of the easiest jobs to get.
Yes.
You don't need experience to work in a supermarket.
But then that
You don't need-
experience is also valued in other jobs, because you're dealing with customers,
Yes.
you're working to a routine, you're working under management, you're presenting
Yeah.
yourself in an open
At the
setting.
end of the day, if you work really well for a year or so at a supermarket, they're still going to give you a
Yeah.
good reference if you're a good worker. Like, it's
Yeah.
still something on the
and
board.
that
And it's still
reference
money.
that reference is what you're working for. It's not maybe
Yeah.
starting off in the job that you don't want. It's not necessarily because you want to work there
Yeah.
forever. It's just getting that reference and getting your hands on
And
deck.
at least money is coming into your bank
Yeah.
account every
can
week.
start-
you're still getting
start
paid.
being-
You're still contributing. Yeah.
Start being
So-
independent, things like that.
Yeah. Like if you even if I search up right now like jobs in Geelong, it'll give me
Yeah.
40 odd thousand results.
Yeah, there's jobs
Like,
everywhere.
jobs in Geelong, I'll go to Seek,
Yeah.
Jobs
and
everywhere.
there will be. Well, right now, just in Geelong, there is like 10,000 odd jobs going.
And that would be anywhere from entry level to higher management.
To management, yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is that there's jobs out there. Like there's always never a short of work. So I think that's like, in terms of Australia, we're at the size we are and like the growth we're having. I don't think we have the room to like our economy to bomb that much.
Do you think our
Because we
economy
have
will
so
keep
much-
growing?
I
Well,
think it'll keep growing.
if-
It might slow down a bit or it might halt, but I don't think it'll go down. I don't think we'll hit a recession.
If we're
personally.
just talking about job openings right now and population, it looks really good right now for one reason alone, and that reason is we have more jobs than we have people to fill them, and that is way better than having more people than jobs to fill.
Yeah.
When
I mean, that's
when you start having more people than jobs that you can fill, that's when your economy starts hitting shit.
Yeah.
But because we have more jobs than people, that is a good sign for the economy to
Yeah.
grow. It gives room for the economy to grow.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think
No, so I think that we're gonna be okay. Like, we might have a bit of a rough time, but I think compared to the rest of the world, we'll be sitting fairly okay, just like it's happened in the past.
yeah.
Like even like take the global financial crisis. Some countries got hit pretty bloody hard by that,
Yeah. Yeah.
like really hard. But like my parents never really felt it, not that much.
I
They never
think
really sat there and was like, "Damn, we're screwed." It was like, "Ah, well, the whole world's screwed, but at least we're still making money."
so.
Yeah.
Let's say worst case scenario, we go into a big recession and into a depression. Do we think that society as a whole in Australia could possibly collapse?
No.
Nah, Mad Max. Mad Max. Mad Max all the way. Nah, we'll be fine.
I don't think society will ever fall because as much as people like to shit on society, without it, everything
I think
descends into
society.
chaos.
I
Everything
certainly
descends
think.
into chaos and anarchy without it. That's the
I
thing.
certainly think certain societies already have collapsed to a certain extent.
In what
Like
in what reasoning?
take the Middle East. I wouldn't call the Middle East a society as such right now.
But a lot of the Middle East society collapsed from outside intervention more than internal stuff.
But
That's the thing with
but the
them.
point is the societies aren't invincible. Like who knows? America get nuked for all we know, or China or
Yeah,
us could get nuked for all we know, and
but
that's certainly going to collapse society.
I don't think
I don't think it'd be from economic reasons. Like
I
a
don't know if it
country
would collapse society. It'll collapse it on a grand scale, but there'll probably be like smaller, more independent ones rather than a big unified one. If you know what I mean. It
yeah,
might take a while, but that's how I would think of it to happen.
like society will never completely. I mean, if society does crumble, it'll build back up.
Society. So the problem is that if society falls, the world descends into chaos and anarchy. Because society is what keeps everybody safe. It keeps people from going out and just randomly murdering someone just because they don't like him.
But
Mm-hmm.
then someone will like, even
It
if that
gives
happened,
people a job. It gives them a bubble to feel like they're not going to be killed just for
but
saying the wrong thing. You know.
I think even if that happened, we just start again. Like we just go right. That sucked, and then someone would go right. Everyone come to my town. We're safe here. And then
Yeah.
that town would grow and grow. And if they had the ability to protect themselves, and they'd continue to grow and grow, they'd elect people and they'd
Yeah.
bring shit back. Who knows what the other side would take. Like
This just
eventually
sounds
they're
like
gonna.
this just
The
sounds like The
thing is,
Walking Dead.
is
But,
that
that's a good example. That's what will happen when communities come together. I think The Walking Dead's a bad example in terms of like I think people would be a little more less completely and utterly fucked up. I don't think people are going to be
Yeah,
hitting
well,
totally hell
obviously
with a baseball bat for no reason.
they have outside influences affecting
Yeah,
their
yeah.
decisions.
But like I certainly think that like if a massive economic collapse happened and everything went to absolute shit and money meant nothing anymore, people would just make something else into money. Oh, I've got
Crypto.
5 cows over here. You know,
yeah.
Well, even
I've got
some
5 cows and I've got 200 cows and I want to buy your house.
well some
Yeah.
I
I'll
was
give you
watching a
a
video just the other day about I can't remember where they were. It was like Venezuela or Africa or somewhere, and
yeah.
a lot of those well, it was in the Amazon, so I don't know what country that's in, but
Brazil.
Brazil. There we go.
It's mainly
Brazilian
Brazil, but it is in more than Brazil.
a Brazilian tribe that base themselves in the Amazon jungle and things like that. They still base their own economy off of cows. Like
Right.
they were talking about they have like planned marriages and things like that. And in order for a man to choose
you
a
gotta pay
wife,
the dowry.
he has to pay that
That's
family
quite a common.
like 10
Kind
or
of
15
old
cows
thing,
or whatever.
very
whatever it is.
old thing.
It-
But it's still
Yeah.
happening today.
Yeah, and it's not
I
surprising.
think it still happens in some places in Africa as well, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a few places still do it. But like, the point is,
The problem with the if you look at any place that has had a full or semi collapse of its society, you can almost point directly to it being from one thing, and that's lack of education. The first thing that is always hit in countries like this is its school systems.
Well,
Yeah.
America's going pretty.
And
The main thing causing the divide in America
it's lack of
is
education
education.
is what brings around these extremist groups that take power, and then you'll notice that nearly all of them either ban schools completely or only let
The
certain parts of
curriculum,
their
yeah.
population go into it, or
Well,
they
the curriculum is
completely
just
make up the
rigged.
curriculum, like
Yeah.
North Korea, for instance. You know, like they
Yeah.
completely make up a curriculum where they think Kim Jong Un and the family is gods and stuff. You know, like
Yeah.
I mean,
that's your number one reason almost for a collapse of society is when people are not educated enough to make it better.
so yeah, I think that we'll be okay. I mean, in our time anyway, we'll be okay. We're not going to have a world
Yeah, maybe in the next
world
two or three,
anarchy.
200 or 300 years, things could change. But
Yeah,
then the way
but for all we
technology's
know,
going, you know,
yeah,
who knows?
for all we know, in 300 years we could be living on Mars and like the world's unified and we're
Yeah,
fighting Mars in
we
a giant war.
talk
Like you don't know these things.
we talked about that in another episode, by the way.
We did.
Winginapodcast.com. Go and search it up.
But no, yeah, it's I think economy.
Yeah.
It's a fair enough reason for a place to at least momentarily collapse. But I think
Grand
at least I'd
scheme will
like
be
to
okay.
hope. I think I like to hope in the grand scheme everything would be okay. I mean,
In
I'm
our
fairly
lifetime.
optimistic.
In our
I'm fairly
lifetime.
optimistic. I'd like to think that at least if it did all go to shit, it'd all come good again eventually.
For
Like,
society to collapse, I think you'd have to be quite extreme
well,
because if you
well
take
we've been
no,
through
well,
worse
let's
as
put
as
let's look
humanity.
at it this way. Germany after World War One,
Yeah,
they were a basket case and a half. You couldn't even afford bread. It was like something like
like
12
800,000 marks.
12 billion
Yeah.
marks or something, you know, like just to
Wow.
buy bread. 12
Yeah.
billion marks. No one
Some
can afford
stupid
that.
amount, yeah.
Like that's how fucked it was, and they still kept it together. Kept it
Well, look at
together
them
enough to
today.
cause another world war anyway, you know, like
Yeah,
and
to nearly become a global power, for
you
God's
know,
sake.
the thing with Germany is they're so remarkable with their economy. They it doesn't matter how many times you knock them down, they'll come back, and I think they're still the number one economy in Europe.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
They've got the best engineers, and they use that engineering on their economy as well. They engineer their economy just almost beautifully, you know, to the point
Yeah,
where it's a very competitive economy, and that keeps them really well, you know.
yeah, so here it is. In 1922, a loaf of bread cost 163 marks. By September 1923, during hyperinflation, the price crawled up to 1.5 million marks at the
Mm,
peak of
Wow.
hyperinflation.
yeah.
In November 1923, a loaf of bread cost. That can't be real.
Yeah.
Lots.
That can't be real. That's like 200 billion marks.
Yeah, it
Jesus.
was expensive, and that's what I mean. Like, if you look at the prices of that, and Germany still didn't collapse as a society. So I don't know if the economy would ever be something that
That
it'd have to be for a
causes
very
that.
prolonged. No, well, it would have to be for such a prolonged time that money literally just becomes not worth
It's not money anymore. It's just a number.
staying with it. You know?
Mm.
Yeah.
But no, it's
So
yeah, but
summarizing,
it said that it cost that much, but yet they still
Mm.
in 10, 15 years they managed to have the one of the world's strongest economies, hold an Olympic Games, start a world
Yeah.
war, have a fair old bloody crack at it,
Yeah.
and then come out the other side, completely divide the country, completely screwing it again. And now you look at them, and they're one of the biggest
Well,
producers of manufacturing in the world again.
I
Like,
just googled it, and I was right. Germany is number one economy in Europe, and it's the fourth strongest in the world, the
yeah,
entire world.
after
So
losing 2 world wars, and they still managed to come back from all this. Like they literally
yeah,
had a big wall in the middle of their country. Like they were screwed up.
yeah.
And yet,
You can, if you look at Google Maps satellite or whatever it is, and you look at Germany at nighttime, you can see the divide still in West and East Berlin, because the Western Berlin has white lights, and Eastern Berlin has yellow lights.
that's
oh
So
wow,
funny.
you can
that's
see
cool.
exactly where the divide is
That is funny.
from that
I
still.
mean, funny, but also fucked up. But no, yeah, you take examples like that, and if those countries can be back on like topping the world scale,
then I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
we'll be okay.
we'll be okay.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see.
Well, as I say, it doesn't matter how hard you hit an economy. It's always gonna bounce back if you give it time.
We'll always have grain to
If
grow,
you-
sheep to grow, things like
If
that.
you give it time
Yeah.
and you don't collapse your entire society, you'll be all right.
Time,
As long as you don't hit that brutal point of complete collapse, you'll be okay.
Yeah,
We
complete
will-
collapse is where you gotta start worrying.
we will be okay. Well, we will be fine. Recession happening or not, we'll see what happens in the near future. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Thank you two so much for coming back on again.
Gucci.
It is a pleasure as always. If you guys like this episode, make sure you hit the follow button on the Facebook page. Make sure to check out Rogue Energy. Use the bonus code WINGS for 10% off on your next purchase. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.